After discovering my girlfriend was a rich heiress who had always pretended to be poor, I didn't fall out with her or break up. Instead, I treated her even better than before. If she could pretend to be poor and deceive me about her feelings, I could pretend to be deeply in love too, and milk the heiress for all she was worth. In the banquet hall of a 5-star hotel, I saw my supposedly poor girlfriend, Shen. She was dressed in a haute couture gown, standing in the center of the crowd, accepting everyone's flattery. I'd come to deliver documents to my boss, and stood quietly in a corner of the banquet hall. Shen never noticed me. Boss, who's that woman? I deliberately turned sideways, terrified Shen would recognize me, and casually asked my boss beside me. My boss glanced over and carelessly revealed Shen Bai's true identity. That girl is no ordinary person. She's the only daughter of Haiqing's richest man. Her name is Shen Bayu. The name matched, but her identity was worlds apart from that of my poor girlfriend. My girlfriend had said she came from the countryside, and that her parents were ordinary farmers. Now, it seemed she had been lying from start to finish. I absolutely refused to believe that this girl, who was worshipped by everyone, was someone other than my girlfriend. She was definitely the one I'd been dating for 3 years. My poor girlfriend, Shen Bayu. She simply looked dazzling in public, but at night, when she returned to our rented apartment, she would pretend to be poor for some unknown reason. I didn't expose Shen Bayu in public. After handing the documents to my boss, I quietly turned and left the banquet hall, then took a car to the riverside. I stood there in the biting wind for 2 full hours before finally leaving. By the time I returned to the apartment, the gloom had vanished from my face, replaced by cold calculation. I dug out the gifts Shen Bayu had given me. They were all cheap things worth only a few dollars. Then I looked at the gifts I'd given her, which routinely cost hundreds or even thousands. Fine. Shen Bayu, this pampered heiress, had actually come to take advantage of a poor working stiff like me, and my salary card was still with her, too. Good heavens, the richest man's daughter had swindled me out of both money and love. Who would believe me if I told them? I silently put the gifts back. My thoughts were in turmoil. After a brief calculation, my desire for revenge only grew stronger. Shen Bayu never stayed out overnight. She always came home by 10 at the latest. Tonight, she called to say she had a company dinner and would be back around 9. To confirm that she really was pretending to be poor, I lay in wait outside our residential complex. Sure enough, I saw exactly what I wanted. A black luxury car first pulled over. In a narrow alley beside the shops, Shen Bayu stepped out gracefully in her couture gown, then entered through the shop side door. When she came out again, she had changed into the ordinary clothes I bought her, returning to the look of my poor girlfriend. My stakeout hadn't been in vain. I had found the hideout where Shen Bayu switched identities. No wonder she was always coming to this little supermarket. It was all so she could change identities here. After Shen Bayu entered the complex, I followed her into the little supermarket. The first floor sold groceries, while hardly anyone ever set foot on the 2nd or 3rd floors. Thinking about it now, the upper floors must have been where Shen Bayu changed identities, her private territory. Hello. Welcome. The clerk was a young woman. When she saw me enter, she immediately greeted me with a smile. As she spoke, her eyes darted around, but her gaze stayed glued to me the entire time. Only then did I realize something was wrong. This woman must have been working for Shen Bayu. She knew Shen Bayu and I lived together, and knew all about us. No wonder she'd always looked at me strangely. Do you still have white radishes? I was fairly familiar with the clerk, so I took the opportunity to explain why I'd come. My wife has a company dinner tonight. I need to make her some hangover soup. We aren't married yet, but we've lived together for a long time, so calling her my wife wasn't much of a stretch. The girl pointed toward the vegetable section, then said with a smile, "They're over there. You treat your wife so well." Do I, ha? Of course I have to treat Shen Bayu well. Otherwise, how could I fool her into coming back to me? This little supermarket definitely had ties to Shen Bayu. I wanted this young woman to pass my words on to Shen Bayu, so she'd believe I was deeply in love with her. Besides the ingredients for the hangover soup, I bought a few other things as well. When I returned to the apartment, I immediately hurried into the kitchen. I prepared hangover soup for Shen Bayu, while also making a late-night snack. Thanks you. It's so wonderful having you. After drinking the hangover soup, Shen Bayu enjoyed my massage as well, her face glowing with happiness. Then she simply buried her face against my chest and gently nuzzled me. She was a wealthy heiress, yet willingly pretended to be poor and dated a nobody like me. I guess she craved the sincere affection of an ordinary person. After all, wealthy families were often blinded by greed for fame and fortune. Even relatives might scheme against one another behind closed doors. Bayu, could you call me your husband from now on? Shen Bayu had always called me Fangzu. I wanted her to change the way she addressed me. That would make us seem even more intimate. Husband, she was surprisingly obedient, immediately calling me in a soft voice. In truth, Shen Buyu had only had a little to drink. She was merely tipsy. We cuddled for a while, then she got up to take a shower. While I had the chance, I picked up Shen Buyu's phone and unlocked it, checking up on her in secret for the first time. Before this, out of trust, even though I knew her passcode. In all 3 years, I had never looked through her phone, so this was truly my first time checking up on her. I had no idea until I looked, and what I found shocked me. In Shen Buyu's group chat with her best friends, I discovered she had been pretending to be poor. The real reason she dated me was that Shen Buyu had once been in love with her childhood sweetheart. They had even been engaged. Later, her childhood sweetheart fell for an ordinary girl and secretly started dating her. Word of it eventually reached Shen Buyu. She had texted her childhood sweetheart to confront him, but he replied casually, saying he was merely playing a romantic game. The game was to date an ordinary person. The revelation infuriated Shen Buyu. In a fit of anger, she decided to join this ridiculous game and quickly found an ordinary boyfriend of her own. Needless to ask, that unfortunate ordinary boyfriend was yours truly. After going through her phone, I quietly put it back, pretending I hadn't seen a thing. Well, I thought this heiress craved the feelings of an ordinary person, but who knew she was merely sulking at her childhood sweetheart and playing a pointless game of dating a commoner. And me? I was damn lucky. I was nothing more than a romantic non-player character in her game. So that night, I vented all the resentment in my heart. Husband, you were incredible tonight. With revenge against the heiress burning in my heart, I felt a surge of satisfaction. Shen Buyu, however, looked completely satisfied, believing I'd performed exceptionally well. Afterward, I couldn't help sucking in a sharp breath. It seemed this kind of revenge had no real effect and had only made her feel even better. Still, no matter what, making Shen Buyu believe I loved her, that I was hopelessly, madly in love, was a crucial part of my plan. After that, I treated her even better, looking after her every need. Shen Buyu became even more clingy. Every day, she returned to our apartment much earlier than before. One day after work, I had just left the office building when a young man blocked my path. You must be Fang's you. His eyes were full of disdain as he looked me up and down. I recognized him at once. His name was Lan, Shen Buyu's childhood sweetheart. I'd seen his photo on Shen Buyu's WeChat. Who are you? I pretended not to know him and raised an eyebrow. And Lan gave to mocking laughs and with a mysterious look, added, You don't need to know who I am. Come to Dawang Wanging tonight. I'll show you the truth about something. With that, he got into his luxury car and drove away in a cloud of dust. Shen Buyu's childhood sweetheart had come looking for me. I doubted it was for anything good. Shen Buyu had already told me she was having dinner with some colleagues tonight. I figured she'd probably be going to Dawang Wanging as well. Her childhood sweetheart had summoned me there. Most likely, he wanted to expose everything on Shen Buyu's behalf, to tell me I was nothing more than a non-player character in their romantic game. I scoffed, utterly contemptuous. From the look in her childhood sweetheart's eyes, I clearly sensed deep hostility. If my enemy wanted me to do something, I would do the opposite. After I went home and ate dinner, I settled comfortably onto the sofa and started watching videos, waiting for my girlfriend to switch back to her poor girl persona and come home. Things turned out much as I'd expected. At that moment, the top-floor ballroom of the Dawang Wanging Hotel was packed with heirs and heiresses from wealthy families, all gathered to celebrate Lan's birthday. Shen Buyu was among them, along with her best friends Luo Qingyu, Xiao Chuxia, and the others. Buyu, I really like your gift. Would you put it on me? From the pile of gifts, and Lan precisely picked out and opened Shen Buyu's gift box, taking out the exquisite watch inside. He stared intently at Shen Buyu, hoping she'd put it on him herself. His eyes quickly swept across the room, finally settling on a masked waiter. A flash of mockery flickered in his eyes. Then he looked away and added with a smile, This must be one of this year's new limited edition watches. It cost at least 5 million. I asked so many people to get one, but still couldn't buy it. I never expected you to find one. Shen Buyu's elegant brows drew together slightly. She seemed to sense that something was wrong. She opened her mouth as if to say something, but ultimately swallowed the words. She didn't know Lan had already approached me. He'd said those things because he mistakenly thought that waiter was me and deliberately said them to provoke me. But Lan was bound to be disappointed because I hadn't gone there at all. And Lan knew even less that the watch Shen Buyu gave him this year had been prepared by her assistant. It wasn't limited edition. It cost only tens of thousands. Compared with the gifts Shen Buyu had personally chosen before, which often cost millions, it was practically shabby. For the past 2 years, on Lan's birthday, he had always brought the ordinary girl he was dating, keeping her by his side and pampering her like a princess. After that, Shen Buyu never bought him an expensive gift again. As for Lan's small request, it was hardly any trouble. Shen Buyu didn't refuse. She casually fastened the watch around his wrist. Buyu, I'll treasure your thoughtfulness. And Lan raised his wrist, deliberately showing off the watch, his voice dripping with suggestiveness. Tonight, He had not only left his ordinary girlfriend at home, but had also clung to Shen Bayu's side, doing everything he could to appear intimate with her. Seeing this from Shen Bayu's other side, Luo Qingyu mocked him without holding back. Well, what happened this year? Why didn't you bring your Miss Lin along? I heard Lan broke up with that Miss Lin. I vaguely remember that 2 years ago, when Shen Bayu came to celebrate Lan's birthday, she was furious watching him dote on Miss Lin. Now that they'd broken up, and seeing Lan trying to win Shen Bayu over, Luo Qingyu seized the opportunity and immediately mocked him. That was only a bit of fun, and Lan didn't care about her teasing. His eyes remained fixed on Shen Bayu as he hurried to defend himself. The person I love has always been you, Bayu. Bayu, please believe me. He gave Shen Bayu what he thought was a deeply loving look, and Lan was certain that with more than 20 years of history as childhood sweethearts, if he said a few tender words, Shen Bayu would surely soften, then abandon that ordinary boyfriend and return to his arms. Shen Bayu said nothing and gave no response, but Luo Qingyu could no longer stand listening. She exaggeratedly pouted, putting on a disgusted expression, and Lan couldn't be bothered to argue with Luo Qingyu and turned away. His eyes once again locked onto the masked waiter. When he found an opening, he hurried over to him. He spoke with a smug, triumphant smile. See that clearly? The person Bayu loves has always been me. She's with you, only to spite me. If you know what's good for you, leave Bayu immediately. By the way, the gifts she gives you are probably cheap junk worth a few $dozen, right? Unlike me, every year on my birthday, Bayu gives me limited edition gifts worth millions. With that, he smugly raised his wrist, deliberately flaunting the limited edition luxury watch Shen Bayu had given him. Only when he heard the waiter's bewildered response did he belatedly realize something was wrong. Young master, and what did you say? Would you like some drinks? What the hell? Aren't you that guy? Sensing something wrong from the man's tone, Lan quickly reached out and yanked off the man's mask, revealing a face completely different from mine. It wasn't him. Where is he? And Lan cursed under his breath in frustration and frantically looked around, but couldn't find me anywhere. Could it be that guy never came because he ignored my instructions? He finally realized that was possible. His expression immediately darkened. He had gone to such lengths to stage all those scenes tonight, hoping to pressure me into leaving Shen Bayu. But the most important member of the audience hadn't even shown up. Hadn't he performed this entire show for nothing? That night, Shen Bayu returned earlier than usual after attending the event. After she got back to the apartment, she first drank the hangover soup I'd made, then washed up, got into bed, and curled up in my arms. She retrieved an exquisite gift box from behind her. Husband, I got you a gift. The gift box looked quite luxurious. When I opened it, a green watch lay inside. What? A green watch? Is this supposed to mean I've been cheated on? I grumbled inwardly. Shen Bayu quickly explained. This watch was a company reward. It's a high-quality replica. I heard even experienced watchmakers can't tell it's fake. You can wear it as if it's genuine, but you must treasure it. Don't lose it, and don't give it away. She personally fastened the watch around my wrist. She solemnly repeated her warning, stressing that I should treasure this so-called replica. She stressed again and again that I mustn't lose it. If it really were only a replica, Shen Bayu wouldn't need to solemnly warn me so many times not to lose it. There was only one possibility. This so-called replica was actually the genuine article. I immediately realized that possibility. I nodded gravely. Don't worry, sweetheart. Whatever you give me is the most precious thing in the world to me. I promise I won't lose even a single screw from this watch. I was laying the sentiment on thick. Seeing how serious I was, Shen Bayu nodded in satisfaction, apparently finally reassured. After that, we enjoyed another passionate night. What could I do? The richest man's daughter was lying beside me, and she was a gorgeous woman with long legs. Who could possibly stay idle? I had to seize the opportunity before I lost my chance and regretted it forever. I made all the right promises, then immediately forgot Shen Bayu's instructions. Early the next morning, I took the green watch to a watch shop. The watchmaker examined it several times, then finally told me it wasn't a replica at all. It was the genuine article, limited worldwide and priced at over 5 million. An exceptionally rare limited edition at that. Over 5 million. That number nearly scared me into sitting on the floor. Fine. At least Bayu has some conscience. After leaving the watch shop, I listed the watch online at 20% off. When over 4 million landed in my account, I finally understood why so many people fought tooth and nail to get close to the wealthy. Milking an heiress for all she was worth felt damn good. In my eyes, Shen Bayu had now become nothing more than a golden statue that could shower me with money. Oh no. I seemed to be falling more and more in love with her, so she wouldn't find out. I bought a convincing high-end counterfeit for a small sum and carefully put it back in the original gift box. When she gave it to me, she said it was a replica, and I'd return a replica. If we really broke up someday, the watch would still return to its rightful owner. I would never take advantage of the heiress. That was the honest truth. Alright. Forget I said that. I was absolutely going to cash in on her. It was only fair after spending 3 years as her romance game non-player character. It wasn't long before I casually brought up my female boss to Shen. The woman was nearly 40. Her education and abilities were both inferior to mine, but she was an expert at scheming. Not only did she have the boss's complete trust, she also loved taking credit for my work. And she had suspiciously close relationships with several male employees. I was only stating the facts. I just wanted to see whether Shen would act. The very next day, my female boss's secrets were thoroughly exposed. She was fired for sexual misconduct, and I stepped straight into her position. When I got home, I pretended to know nothing. In front of Shen, I even sighed. I wondered which brilliant executive had investigated that woman. It was deeply satisfying. The corners of Shen Bai's lips lifted. Her smugness was almost impossible to hide. I took the opportunity to send her another warning. That woman had been involved with several men at once. It was filthy and disgusting. Wasn't she afraid of catching something? Shen Bayu didn't argue after hearing that. I knew that, despite all her schemes, she probably wouldn't betray me behind my back. My warning was because I feared she'd secretly fool around with other men. After all, I worked hard every day to keep her happy. How would she have the energy to think about anyone else? That night, I put in an especially impressive performance. I wore Shen Bayu out so badly that she cursed me for ages. In the end, exhaustion made her fall asleep first. I knew exactly what was going on. She cursed fiercely, but she was probably enjoying it deep down. But after only 2 peaceful days, and Lan showed up at my company to confront me again. You didn't go to Dewang Waiting that day. Why would I go? My one question left him speechless. Once Lan recovered, he put on that superior attitude again. Fang's you still have no idea what's really going on. He even clicked his tongue deliberately. His face was full of smug amusement at the poor boy's expense. Just say it. Stop beating around the bush. After I shot him down twice in a row, he simply blurted out his so-called truth. Shen Bayu was his fiancée. She was only playing a dating game with me, and I was merely the game's non-player character. After saying that, and Lan waited for me to react with shock and rage, then leave with some self-respect. After listening, I replied with just 3 words. What a psycho. And Lan tried to keep arguing, but I walked around him and left. That night, he somehow found my WeChat account and sent me a friend request. I didn't recognize the profile picture and accepted without thinking. The next second, photos of him and Shen Bayu flooded in, from their innocent childhood, through middle school, high school, and then university. They filled my screen one after another, and Lan went out of his way to emphasize that they had grown up together and were a couple approved by both families. Shen Bayu was only throwing a tantrum at him. A poor boy like me could never be worthy of her. The only man who could marry her was him. After reading it all, I gave a cold laugh. I had never planned to marry Shen Bayu. Who she married later was none of my business. Faced with the photos and Lan had thrown at me, my reply was short and blunt. Photoshopped. The moment I sent it, I blocked him. The whole sequence was effortless, and Lan hadn't even sent the birthday video he'd prepared. His screen showed nothing but a red exclamation mark. He was probably shaking with rage by then, and that was almost exactly what happened. And Lan stared at the exclamation mark for a long time, unable to recover. Then he hurled his phone aside. He couldn't understand it. He had put the photos right in front of me. How could I remain so impossible to sway? Stubborn and unyielding, perhaps affected by Lan's annex. Shen Bayu also sensed that something was wrong. That night, after we'd been intimate, she curled up in my arms. Clutching my arm, she spoke cautiously. Honey, if one day you discover that I'm not who I seem now, or that I've deceived you, could you forgive me? When I heard that, I wondered if she was ready to come clean. Would she, like in the movies, throw 10 million at me and tell me to take the money and leave? I had even started calculating, after 3 years of tireless devotion, how much breakup compensation I deserved. I could practically hear the numbers adding up in my head, but I delivered the perfect romantic lines aloud. If you deceived me, I'd accept it willingly. As long as you haven't cheated, whatever you've done, I'll forgive you. Shen Bayu's eyes curved with happiness, and her arms tightened around mine. Honey, you're so wonderful. I love you so much. Taking advantage of the moment, I added that I was useless, because I hadn't been able to buy a home that truly belonged to us, and had made her squeeze into that cramped, rundown apartment with me. The old apartment was actually worth 2 or 3 million, and Shen Bayu was its owner. The rent I paid every month all ended up in her pocket. I'd secretly investigated the matter before, and discovered that the owner's name matched hers exactly, but I had only casually tested her. Early the next morning, she excitedly dragged me to the property transfer office. Honey, this lady owns a home in Jinjiang Garden. She's in a hurry to move abroad, and is willing to sell it cheaply. Our savings are just enough. Once you sign the contract, the house will be ours. She said she'd viewed it beforehand, and that it was wonderful. She pulled me along, determined to close this bargain. Our combined savings amounted to only a few $100,000. Even the cheapest home in Jinjiang cost 5 or 6 million. In a hurry to move abroad and selling cheaply, that excuse was full of holes. The house obviously belonged to Shen Buyu, and the so-called owner standing before me was probably an actress she'd hired at the last minute. Only an idiot would call her out on it. Well, that sounds wonderful. One immediately put on an excited expression and took the pen, then signed my name on the contract in a few quick strokes. This home worth several million at least, just like that, became mine. After signing, I handed the pen to Shen Buyu and asked her to add her name too. But she smiled and waved her hand. Your name alone is enough. I trust that my husband would never kick me out. It sounded like unconditional trust. But in reality, Shen Buyu didn't own hundreds or thousands of properties, but she did own dozens. And this multi-million-dollar Riverview apartment barely registered on her radar. Since she didn't want her name on it, I certainly wasn't going to beg her to share ownership. She simply chose not to sign. It wasn't that I stopped her dating the richest man's daughter and accepting a house from her. What was the big deal? I accepted the house with a perfectly clear conscience. That afternoon, we moved, leaving our old, cramped rental behind for good. Our new home was spacious and bright, with a river view from the living room. There were plenty of spare rooms too. Once everything was unpacked, I pointed to the 2 empty rooms and started making grand promises. These 2 rooms will be for our babies. The firstborn can have the room on the left, and the second the one on the right. Oh, right? Don't you always say the Shen family is getting smaller? Our first and second babies can both take the Shen family name. I won't object at all. Whether we even get married is another matter. But I had to maximize the emotional payoff first. Shen Buyu beamed exactly as I'd expected. She linked her arm through mine and accidentally let it slip. The first and second babies will both take my surname. That will make it easier for them to inherit the Shen family fortune later. The moment the words left her mouth, she immediately shook my arm and changed the subject. Honey, I'm hungry. Give me something delicious. But I'd already heard what she said. The Shen family was the richest family in hiking. Their companies were worth over 100 billion. If my children could really inherit that fortune, I couldn't even imagine what that would look like. A fortune worth over 100 billion had slipped from Shen Buyu's lips. My heart gave a hard jolt. Of course, I hadn't originally been that ambitious. I only wanted to milk her for a few more benefits, to make up for being deceived for 3 years, and make the rest of my life a little more comfortable. Call me a kept man or a social climber. Compared with empty pride, I was more afraid of being flat broke than of losing face. Whenever an opportunity appeared, I'd climb the ladder without hesitation. I never planned to put on airs about it. Life was getting better and better, yet there were always shady characters jumping in to ruin it. One day, my boss suddenly took me to the Shen Group headquarters. I couldn't have been more unwilling. Shen Buyu worked in this building. If we ran into her, our whole act would be exposed on the spot. But my boss insisted I come, and I couldn't refuse. To make matters worse, and Lam was there too. The moment I saw his face, I knew something bad was bound to happen. Mr. Zhao, why don't you get back to work? I have some private business to discuss with him. A few words from Lan sent my boss away. I kept playing dumb and asked with a frown, why is it you again? And Lan gave a cold laugh. Don't rush. Today, I'm going to teach that thick skull of yours a lesson. As he spoke, he reached out and grabbed my arm. I couldn't be bothered to wrestle with him, but the man was unbelievably irritating. As we struggled, a familiar figure appeared at the end of the hallway. Shen Buyu wore an impeccably tailored women's suit, leading a group of men and women. Surrounded by them, she swept into the conference room. From a distance, her presence was overwhelming. She looked every bit the leader of the pack. She radiated the authority of a queen who tolerated no dissent. This was her true self, the Shen Group's sole heir, a woman who had the final say wherever she went, not the poor girlfriend at home who curled up in my arms and called me honey. Once she arrived at the company, she radiated the commanding presence of a queen bee. She hurried past without noticing us at all, and Lan immediately pointed over there. See that? Buyu is the Shen family's heir. She doesn't belong to the same world as you. He spoke condescendingly, waiting for me to admit defeat. I glanced at him and gave the exact same response as before. Bullshit. That woman merely looks like my wife. Whatever Lan showed me, I had one response. Play dumb. As long as Shen Buyu didn't admit it herself, I could keep up the act forever. And Lan ground his teeth and called me hopeless. His expression suggested he was wondering how someone as stupid as me could possibly exist. Even after watching me deny Shen Buyu with my own eyes, he came up with another devious plan. He forced Shen Buyu and me into the same private karaoke room. Fangs, you, come over here. Look. The moment I pushed open the door, I heard Lan call out smugly. Besides my boss and Lan, the room also held Shen Buyu, Wo Qingyu, and Xiao Chuxia. I'd met them several times before. They claimed to be Shen Buyu's colleagues, but they were all wealthy young heiresses. Shen Buyu wore an extravagant evening gown, looking nothing like the poor girlfriend from home. Her haute couture dress and delicate earrings made her heiress status unmistakable, but I could never mistake that face. When she saw me, Surprise filled her face. Fang's you. What are you doing here? I understood at once, and Lan had arranged this gathering to expose the truth. If I couldn't avoid it, I wouldn't hide. I walked straight over and sat beside Shen, pushing Lan aside in the process. Honey, take it easy on the drinks tonight. Too much alcohol is bad for you. I deliberately made my voice especially affectionate. Shen immediately nodded. I'll listen to you. I definitely won't drink much tonight. Shen Bai's heart warmed at that, and she agreed without the slightest hesitation. Luo Qingyu began teasing us from the side. You're not even married yet, and you're already bossing her around. Seeing the conversation veer off again, and Lan quickly interrupted. Buyu, stop fooling Fang's you. This game needs to end. If this continues, I really will get angry. Luo Qingyu shot back immediately. Then get angry. What does that have to do with us? And Lan was left speechless, but he quickly regained his composure and steered the conversation back. Fang's you. Look at what Buyu is wearing. It's haute couture. You couldn't afford it after working your hardest for an entire year. This time, Shen Bai's expression hardened before he could finish. Enough. Fang's you, and I have nothing to do with you. And Lan hurriedly brought up their childhood engagement, insisting that he was her fiancé. Shen Baiyu simply replied, I don't want to argue with you. She ended the discussion coldly, giving Lan no chance to continue pestering her. She took my hand, pulled me up from the sofa, and left the room, lifting her skirt. Shen Baiyu dragged me all the way into her Rolls-Royce. Fang's you. You've seen everything. I can't keep deceiving you. She was clearly ready to come clean, but my eyes kept wandering around the spacious interior. Believe it or not, this was my first time riding in a Rolls-Royce. Are you listening to me? Shen Baiyu immediately noticed that my mind had wandered. I quickly looked away, then slipped into full movie star acting mode. Honey, I think I understand. You're not from the countryside. Your family is actually very wealthy, right? Shen Baiyu nodded and admitted that she had deceived me and hidden her family's circumstances. But she emphasized that our relationship wasn't merely a game. She was genuinely dating me. She spoke with unusual seriousness, waiting for my answer. But she didn't know that from the first day I saw her in the banquet hall, I'd already figured out almost the entire story behind the charade. A lie was still a lie, but I couldn't care less. As a shameless opportunist, I only cared how much more I could milk her for in the future. All right. I forgive you. Before Shen Baiyu even had to ask, I gave her the words she most wanted to hear. But don't ever lie to me again. No matter what it is, you must tell me everything, exactly as it happened. Seeing how magnanimous I was, Shen Baiyu finally breathed a sigh of relief. She nodded repeatedly and promised. Meanwhile, I looked at her haute couture gown, and my mind turned naughty again. The back seat of the car was spacious enough, so I simply told the driver to park by the river, then send him away. Shen Baiyu realized what I was thinking, and her face flushed. Here, are you in or not? She hesitated for a moment, then finally gave in. You lunatic. Have it your way. After that, the car began to rock gently. The bodyguards outside stared in stunned disbelief. Afterward, I ran my hand over the soft seat and casually praised it. These seats are unbelievably comfortable. Shen Baiyu laughed. If you like it, I'll buy you one tomorrow. Those were her words. I certainly didn't hold a knife to her throat. The next day, I went with Shen Baiyu to a luxury car dealership and chose a car I'd wanted for a long time. It cost nearly $4 million, and naturally, she paid. I could never have afforded that price myself. With a luxury car worth nearly $4 million in my hands, I milked her for another massive windfall. I was so delighted that words couldn't describe it. And Lan, however, was nearly insane with rage, even after her identity had been exposed. And I still hadn't fallen out with Shen Baiyu. He went out of his way to ambush me in the parking lot. Have you never driven such a good car in your entire life? I couldn't be bothered to answer, but he wouldn't let it go. Shen Baiyu doesn't genuinely love you. She's only using you to spite me. Why else would she pretend to be poor and deceive you? Why are you still here? Watching him lose control, I couldn't help reminding him. Young Masterin, if you really want to be with Buyu, then win her back yourself. Stop coming after me. If he truly had what it took to win her back, I'd gladly step aside, on the condition that you give me a generous breakup settlement. That struck Lan where it hurt. He immediately cursed me as a shameless brat. I genuinely hoped he had what it took to win her back, but all he could do was come and bluster in front of me. He couldn't accomplish anything else. He and Shen Baiyu didn't have any formal engagement. Their family's elders had merely mentioned a childhood betrothal in passing. Besides, the first person to betray that relationship and date another woman was him. If he really had what it took, he should win Shen Baiu's heart back. What did swaggering around in front of me prove? I didn't want to deal with him, but Lan's insults grew more vicious. In the end, he even dragged my parents into it. Didn't your parents teach you that being the other man is shameful? That completely enraged me. After thinking it over, I decided to throw out that classic line from short dramas. Young Masterin, haven't you heard this saying? The one who isn't loved is the third party. And Lan's face turned purple with rage. The moment I said it, I felt fantastic. The argument in the parking lot quickly turned into a fistfight. Both of us ended up in the hospital. Shen Bayu arrived at once. I immediately hugged her and complained. Honey, he struck first. I only fought back. That was self-defense. And Lan was standing at the hospital room door. When he heard that, he charged straight in. That's bullshit. You clearly struck first. Bayu, look. He beat my face until it swelled up. He pointed at his swollen face, pleading for Shen Bayu to feel sorry for him. As he spoke, he even leaned his head a little closer to Shen Bayu. I saw what he was doing. He was quite the expert at playing the victim, so I showed him no courtesy either. I leaned straight into Shen Bayu's arms. I seized the initiative and pointed at Lan. Shen Bayu, whose side are you on, mine or his? Don't forget, he was the one who saw another woman behind your back. I never did that. Heaven and earth can bear witness. I'm completely devoted to you. Those old grievances struck Lan right where it hurt. Shen Bayu remembered all the hurt she'd suffered before, and her expression darkened at once. Lan, get out. Lan still tried to cling to his status as her fiancé, but Bayu threw my words back at him verbatim. Fang's you isn't the other man. Remember, the one who isn't loved is the third party. Lan trembled with rage. He threw out a final threat that she'd regret it someday, then slammed the door and left. Once he was gone, Shen Bayu turned and scolded me. Don't ever use that twisted logic to provoke people again. Before coming to the hospital, she'd already reviewed the parking lot security footage. From the argument to the first punch, she'd seen everything clearly. That's why she went along with what I said, and left Lan speechless. The one who isn't loved is the third party. That was the twisted logic only a third party would keep parroting. After scolding me, she added, "You're not the other man. With me, you're the only one." Oh wow. It seemed my position as the richest man's live-in son-in-law was truly secure. After my injuries healed, Shen Bayu took me to the Shen family's old residence to formally meet her parents and grandparents. I spent the entire journey wondering whether the Shen elders would seek me out privately, wave a 20 million check in front of me, and pay me to leave Shen Bayu. But even after we walked down the aisle, that payoff check never appeared. Instead, I received a 5% stake in the Shen group. That was worth several billion. I've always had principles. Once I took my boss's money, I naturally wouldn't betray her easily, and I had to give her plenty of emotional support. Later, Shen Bayu and I really did have two children, and as we'd agreed, they both took the Shen family name. We stayed together and lived into our old age, in peace and happiness. As for Lan, he made a vicious threat when he left the hospital room. I thought he'd keep causing trouble, but unexpectedly, on the very day of the fight, before he had even left the hospital, he was diagnosed with a sexually transmitted disease. Later, the family sent him abroad for treatment, but he didn't survive.